Hello learners, I am Dr. Meghna, working as assistant professor, and today we will be learning about managing family income. In this chapter, we learn about what is income, what is expenditure. We'll also learn about money, the concept of goods and services. We'll learn the ways of balancing income and expenditure, and we'll also learn about the ways of making a spending plan and what are the advantages of saving our family income. Now let's go on to the first slide to understand the concept of family income. Family income comprises of money, goods and services that are used to satisfy the needs and desires of each member of the family. Every family member has a certain need and a desire, and we use money to fulfill those needs and desire by buying goods and services, which you will understand. Goods are the commodities, various commodities that we use to satisfy our needs and desires, like you can see a car, utensils, washing machine, refrigerator and so on. You can have numerous goods with you. And we also spend money to buy certain services, like while hiring a maid, as she gives us the services, and for stitching clothes we are hiring tailors, or electricity. These are all services, or a telephone service. Now according to the income of the family, the money is allocated for different items. Family members contribute to the family income according to their age and skill. Every family member who is earning is contributing in a certain way through his age and through his certain skills. Adults contribute by earning and making use of their knowledge and skills. Every one of us in a family has a knowledge and has a skill. So we are contributing through our knowledge, through our skills for the family income. Now what is money? We are talking about using money to satisfy our needs by procuring goods and services. So what is money? Money is a form of currency which you spend to buy something or pay for services. Money is a hard cash you get in hand. The money, the notes, the coins, what we are receiving from our office while we are working, that is called as money. Now what are the sources of the income? The sources of income are salaries, gifts, interest, perks or allowances. Perks or allowances are those things which a company, when a person is working in a company, the company is maybe offering a car driver or offering a car or a holiday trip. So those are the perks or allowances. Rent received from a house, savings, the money which we have saved, use of services or skill. When I have certain skill in a family, maybe of cooking as a skill, stitching clothes or teaching students in a form of taking tuitions, so those services are or skills are going to add up to my income. So that is also a source of income. Just you can see from this slide, when you have a house, you are getting a rent from a house, or you have rented your shop, you are earning a rent. People invest in shares also in public limited companies or private companies, and by buying those shares in those companies, we are earning dividends, we are earning profits and interest. So that also becomes a source of our income, like interest received from bank or sale of shares and other investments add up to our income. Expenditure. Now we talked about income. What are the sources of income? Now what is expenditure? Expenditure is the money spent on buying different goods and services required by a family. When a family is acquiring a good or acquiring a service or paying for something, then how they are doing? They are doing by paying the money, and that paying of money, this process is the expenditure. Now we spend on different categories. There are different categories which we spend on. One is food, like a family needs to eat. Every member have to satisfy his hunger every day. So food is a very important part of our expenditure. Then we go on to housing. We have to live in a house and for shelter. So for housing, we need to spend, so that we invest for a house, or we are staying in a rented house, but we are paying the money, we are spending our money in the form of expenditure. Transport, we are traveling. When we are traveling by a public transport, by a car, we have to spend money. Education, Education for self, maybe for adults or for the family members. When that education is happening, then we have to again spend money. Next category, medical expenses. So, when you are sick or you are going for your regular treatments, we have to pay money. We do not get at times these services for free. So, for paying money, the expenditure is done. And in clothing, we need to cover ourselves with clothes. So, we need to spend money on clothing. So, this is our category of expenditure. Other than, there can be other categories of expenditure like recreation and maybe miscellaneous category, in which we might be putting some other things, and saving category, in which we are mentioning where are we saving money and all. Now, there are different factors which affect the expenditure pattern of a family. Income is one. Every family has a certain set of income. What income they have will depend upon how they are spending the family income. You know, suppose a family has an income of 10,000 rupees, another family has an income of 50,000 rupees. So, 10,000 rupees family income, they will be in a different position to spend the money, whereas a family earning 50,000 rupees per month will be in a different position to earn money. Then we go to a size of a family. Size of a family will depend upon various parameters. Suppose in a family there are 2 members, suppose in another family there are 4 members. So, a family of 4 members will spend on different items, their needs will be different. A family of 2 members, their needs will be different. When we go to the age of family members, every family has has members of different ages. There might be children, there might be old age people, and there might be young adults or middle age adults. So, as per the needs, you know, they have to spend money on their needs. Then place of residence, those who are living in a city or those who are living in a village or maybe in a small town, the expenditure pattern varies. People living in big cities, their expenditure will be high in comparison to the people living in smaller towns. Going on to the skills. Now, family members have skills. Suppose a lady housewife is working at home, she is cooking her own meals, she is stitching clothes. Now, through those skills, she is, you know, maybe spending also and earning also. So, it will depend upon the skills of the family members. Now, savings, another factor affecting the expenditure. How much money a family has saved, on that basis also a family is in a capacity to spend more. Those who have not saved and always are you know, tightly packed, that they can't, because they have to depend on their monthly income every day. So, they just can't spend haphazardly. So, they have to be very cautious, whereas the family, those who have saved every month, is in a better position to do the expenditure. Now, you have understood income, you have understood expenditure. Now, we have to take care of this income so that it is spent wisely. How do we do that? We do that by making a spending plan. If we do not make a spending plan, we are likely to spend more than what we have. We have income and we have expenditure. Suppose, as you can see here, suppose income is higher than the expenditure, then what is going to happen? A family has to borrow money to fulfill your expenditures. For example, you have an income of 10,000 rupees and your expenditure is 20,000 rupees. Now, to cover up those 10,000 rupees, because your expenditure is higher than your income, you have to borrow money from your friends or banks, or you have to take a loan to satisfy your expenditure. Another case where income is more and expenditure is less, then what you have to do? You are in a position to save money. In this case, if we take an example, suppose your income is rupees 50,000 rupees and your expenditure is 40,000 rupees, then you are saving 10,000 rupees per month, which this case is a better position and the family is secure in this kind of a scenario. Now, how should we make the spending plan? First of all, we have to consider all the income which is coming to the family and all the facilities. We might be getting income from different sources. So, we have to accumulate and add up all the income which we are receiving from different sources. Maybe I am taking tuitions, so income from tuitions, we are working in a job, the salary which is coming, or maybe the house which is on rent, so earning rent. So all these three, salary, rent and money from the tuitions, will be the income. It has to be totaled. Now we have after totaling the income, we go on to see whether we have covered all the family members and their sources of income. Then in the third step, we list all the requirements of the family. Family members need different things. They need different goods, they need different services, there are different list of commodities which they need. We have to list all those commodities which all the family members need. Now every family member has a different need. Maybe one family member needs a car, he needs education, he needs to buy clothes, he needs to have food. So we have to prioritize these needs. We just can't satisfy all the needs of all the family members. We have to be very rational, we have to be practical, and we have to prioritize. So maybe firstly we will give preference to the food, then we might give preference to the education, then to the clothes, and maybe lastly, if there is money left for the family, then the last need of that family member, which was car, will be given preference to. Now after we have prioritized these needs, we will allocate the funds, keeping in mind the total income, expenditure and some amount of total money as saving. What does this mean? This means that now after we have prioritized the list and of the needs, and we have given importance to all the needs as per the family members, we have to decide how much money is going to be given to each category. Suppose the example which I had taken, the money has to be spent on foods. So how much money I am going to give per month for foods? Then on education, how much money I am going to keep aside for education? How much money I am going to keep aside for maybe travel, or for buying a car, or for buying clothes? After I have done that, then I am going to calculate how much money is going to be totally spent on expenditure for fulfilling all the needs of the family members. Then we go on to the next step of balancing the spending plan. We have calculated the total income which the family is receiving, and we are calculated the total expenditure as per the categories. Now we will see whether the income and expenditure is balanced or it is not balanced. Sometimes the income might be higher and expenditure is less, then it's not a problem for a family. But at times expenditure is high and income is less, then it is a matter of concern, and this spending plan is going to help us in correcting the amount of expenditure which we have. So we might reduce the amounts on expenditures because our income is limited. So in this point, expenditure is less than the income by trying to increase the income and decreasing the expenditure. It is only in those cases where the expenditure is less than income. So we might try to increase the income and decrease the expenditure. Now what are the characteristics of a good budget? We have learned how to make a budget, and which is a form of a spending plan. So what are the characteristics of a good budget? Accurate estimate of income. It is very important, first of all, to have a complete accurate estimate of income. We can't say that this month we are going to get 10,000 rupees, or maybe 20,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees. We need to be accurate that this month I am going to get 50,000 rupees of income. But those 50,000 rupees which I am going to get must be accurate. It should not be talked about in air that I am assuming that I am going to get 50,000 rupees, but actually I am getting 40,000 or 30,000. So this first step is very important and it needs to be very accurate. Then we go on to the next step, which, or maybe a next characteristics. What is the accurate estimate of expenditure? The expenditure which we are putting as per categories like food, clothing, shelter and housing, recreation, education, the categories of expenditure, the amount allocated for expenditure needs to be accurate. We just can't say I am going to pay for so and so amount without having a proper thorough knowledge of what expenditures are going to happen. So we need to be clear about the amount of expenditures too. The expenditure estimate should be as accurate as possible look up the budget of a previous years or records of past expenditures and savings. Now the next characteristics is reasonably accurate allocation of money. The categories on which we have spent, they need to be very accurate for food, for clothing, for education, for recreation, for travel. The amount which I am going to write, the money spent on each category needs to be accurate. Then the another characteristic which is very important is the spending plan needs to be flexible. I just can't say that I have put category on food, I am going to spend 30,000 rupees per month, and on education I am going to spend 40,000, and recreation I am going to spend 50,000. Suppose I have certain medical expenses, I have certain emergencies at my home, so I have to cut down on my recreation which I have allocated 50,000 rupees, because education obviously I can't survive without education. And on food also, suppose I have given 30,000 rupees on food, and I can start cooking at home and reduce the eating out, so that I am able to meet my medical expenses and other emergencies which I am facing. So now we go on to how to balance the income, which is very important for managing the family income. As you can see in this situation, which is written bad situation, here this is example of a seesaw. The expenses are very high and income is less. So the expenses will go up, and because the weights are heavy, and income is going to go down, and this is a very bad situation. If a family is in this situation, then the family suffers debt and they are too much under loan. Whereas in this situation, if the income is high and expenses are low, then it is a very ideal situation, because our income is high, expenditures are less, and we are in a capacity to save more. And this is a balanced situation where income is equal to expenditure. Maybe income is 10,000 rupees and expenditure is also 10,000 rupees. But this is not an ideal situation, because in this case we are not saving any money. Ideal situation is this, where income is high as we are in a capacity to save money. Now what should we do so that we are in a capacity to save in case of where our expenditure is high? We can't say that expenditure is high, so cut down on all the needs and desires. There are other ways to increase the family income. One of the ways is to earn more. No, we need to find other sources of supplementary income according to your capabilities and skills, like taking tuition, stitching clothes. Every family members have some skills, have some talents. They have to start working on those skills, those talents, so that they are doing some extra work to add up to their income through tuitions, through stitching clothes, through cooking meals at home or whatever. Then increase the income by taking part, like in a part-time job, overtime, household production like kitchen garden, making preserved food items, etc. Now suppose in a house, in a family, a man is earning 10,000 rupees, but the income is not sufficient. So he might take up a part-time job, he might do overtime, but it might not be possible for him to stress himself so much, because his health is also important. In that case, other family members can start growing vegetables. In case they have a kitchen garden, they can start making food at home. They can reduce their expenditure of buying clothes by stitching clothes in their home itself. Now we go on to the sources of income, which is very clear from this picture. Like suppose the person is already in a job, but he has taken an evening part-time job, maybe as a in a caterer or as a data entry operator, just for example. Another way to add up to your family income is to use your skills, as you can see, by stitching, by knitting, by growing vegetables, by cooking vegetables, by making pickles at home, by making jams at home, so that money is not spent on acquiring these things at least. Another way, other than earning more, there is another way. Suppose one is not in a capacity to earn more, one person doesn't have that much of time. So what we have to do in a family? We have to cut down on expenditures, because when we don't have an extra source of income, we have to cut down on expenditures. Now, what are the ways? Do not waste food. Whatever you are eating, please don't waste food. Give appropriate preference to the foods. Whatever you want to eat, just cook that much amount of food so that it is not wasted. Even cutting down on eating outside, because when you have to live within your limited income, so you just can't go out every day or very frequently to restaurants and spend money. Suppose you're spending on one meal while you're going to a restaurant, you're spending 2000 rupees. But if you are cooking at home, maybe you need only 3000 rupees per month for buying the grocery. So eating out should be cut at that situation. And save electricity and water, we need to be cautious, because when we are saving electricity and water, we are reducing our electricity and water bills. In this way, we are cutting our expenditures. Then ironing and washing at home, we can do ironing at home, washing at home, so that we don't have to hire extra services, hire extra maid, so that our income is preserved. Then economic use of resources, it's about every resource, whether it's a fuel, whether it's food, whether it's electricity, whether it's clothing. We need to be very economical and cautious of all the resources which we have, because ultimately that's going to add up to our income. Then use of public library instead of buying storybooks. In a family, children and adults may be in a habit of reading storybooks or other kinds of books. Then every time buying and keeping a stock of books might be an expensive affair. So you can find out places of public library and places where there is a lot of options where you can go and read with your family, and it will be enjoyable affair also, and you save money also. Use of public transport. Traveling to your workplace in a car might be expensive because the fuel costs are high. So in these cases, you can take up a public transport, maybe by a train, a bus, metro, whatever, so that you're not spending on the car. Then avoid impulsive buying. We all have a tendency to go out, shop, we all want to do that, but we should always buy whatever is needed, so that we are not spending haphazardly, and we are giving a thought before spending. We also need to be careful that it's not an impulsive buying. Maybe I'm going out in a shop and I decide that I like this thing. Maybe I don't need that thing. Just because I'm liking that thing, I want to buy without realizing that I don't have a budget to buy so much need goods in this month. So I need to be very cautious about my impulsive buying behavior. Now there are certain the different categories of expenditure which we have discussed, which are food, housing, education, entertainment, transport, clothing, medical, miscellaneous, saving. Now we've also discussed about the amount to be allocated, the amount of money to be allocated for each expenditure, but there is a certain guideline of different categories of percentage which has to be given. So maybe you can understand with this pie chart. For food, we need to allocate 30% of our salary, and for housing, which is also another important, we will allocate 20% of our family income, because we need to, maybe we are living in a rented accommodation, we need to pay for the rent, or we have our own house but it's under loan, so we need to pay for the EMI. Then we need to go, and our kids need to go to school for education. So 10% of the family income can be spent for education. Entertainment, one can reduce for 5%, and going for transport maybe 8%, because you need to travel for your office. Your children might be needing to travel to schools and colleges. Then clothing, we need to cover ourselves, which is very important, and we need 7% of our family income to spend for clothing. Now for medical expenses, we will allocate 5%. It is not necessary that every month somebody is getting sick and somebody is going to get some treatment. A family might be healthy too, but we need to allocate at least 5% of the family income minimum, so that in case of emergencies, in case of situation, we are not in a bad situation, and we need to spend on the medical expenses. So 5% is enough, and in case somebody is not falling sick, somebody is healthy, so that 5% which we are saving every month can be saved and maybe kept as fixed deposit in a bank or in any form of investment. Now, next category is miscellaneous. So, whatever other expenditures which are happening, which we have not covered in these, we can put in miscellaneous category. And finally, saving. It is compulsory and it should be done that 10% of our family income must be saved, so that we are secure for in future. Now, different ways of saving is, saving in banks, saving in investments, saving as fixed deposits, saving maybe in some kind of a jewelry, maybe investing in a property. We are different methods. And why we are saving? We are saving so that we are able to meet the family emergencies. Every family can have certain emergencies. There is no certainty that we will always go fine. So, in case of emergencies, our saving is going to help us. For a higher education in a family, some members might be wanting to go for higher education. So, in that case, saving will be of help. Suppose in a family, children decide to go abroad or may for higher education in a university, the saving that the family has will be a big asset for their children to get a good education. Then going on to the health emergencies, any health emergencies, maybe there is a heart attack, maybe there is some immediate problem, a pain, whatever. So, for those things you can't say that I don't have money, I can't get the treatment. You have to use your saving for completing this need of emergency. Then children marriages. In our country, we have a beautiful culture of supporting our children. So, we really need money for that. So, saving is utilized for our children marriages and to secure their future too. Then old age security. We won't be young forever, we will grow old. So, we will be using that saving for our old age, because you might not be in a position to go to the office and work and get salary. So, saving is very important for old age. And last but not the least, buy luxury goods. I will not say that avoid your luxuries, only focus on needs, only focus on what is important. Of course, we also need to buy certain luxuries. Maybe we want to travel by air, by aeroplane. If we have saved lot of money with us, so saving plays a role here too. So, you have understood different concepts about the family income. What is income, what is expenditure, what are the different goods and services, what is a way of making a spending plan, how to balance the income and expenditure, and what is the importance of saving and how the saving is of help to us. And finally, you have also learned about the different percentages which we need to put for the different categories of expenditure in a family. Hope you have understood this chapter well. Thank you.